Holcombe Moor, bleak and windswept, idyllic and serene, a haven of natural beauty and wildlife, yet a training ground for warfare. Criss-crossed by ancient footpaths, replete with myth and legend, littered with remnants of another time, it is a place full of contradictions. 12 miles from the city of Manchester and surrounded by the urban sprawl from the former mill towns of Bury, Bolton and Blackburn, it has remained largely unchanged since the mid-19th century. Much has been written about this moor and its environs, and there are many fine descriptions of the landscape, its inhabitants and characters of long ago. However, words and pictures are no substitute for simply being here. Ralph Rooney, a well-known and respected walker, described this area as God's gift. He was right. Join us as we take a look around this magical place. Leaving the woodlands behind, we climb the path to the heathlands beyond and the substantial ruins of Higher Ridge Farm. It is hard to imagine a thriving community of a dozen or so farmsteads, cotton mills, mines and quarries. But as you wander around, you can still get a sense of how this place used to be. Its heart has long since gone, but its soul remains. Making our way along the ridge, we next come to Cinder Hill. Old John Knowles, who lived at Nook Farm, remembered as a boy in the late 1790s huge mounds of cinders from the bloomery, an ancient forge fed by wood and charcoal, and from which Cinder Hill Farm and the subsequent mill took their name. Paddy's Pond, renovated in 1989 in memory of Colonel P.V. Panton. It was once a lodge supplying water to the mills at Bottoms and Cinder Hill. Little remains now of Cinder Hill Mill, which was constructed originally to spin cotton. It was converted from water power to steam in 1859 and evolved through woolen weaving and bleaching before it was finally closed in 1876. Two local characters, Entwistle from Boardmans and Horrocks from Holcombe Fold, worked as carriers and often made the long journey to Manchester by horse and cart with the rolls of cloth produced at Cinder Hill Mill. Leaving at 4 AM, they would return with further supplies of yarn and weft late the same night, the horse usually being left to find the way back after various stops were made at alehouses along the route. Leaving this former industrial site, we head to the hills. Scrambling up the steep and rocky bed of Redbrook, we encounter many fascinating geological formations. On reaching the top, the views which greet us are stupendous. One could be forgiven for thinking we were elsewhere. On the eastern side of the brook, we come across the remains of an unobtrusive structure known as John Turner's Cave. A local industrialist and well-known eccentric of the mid-19th century, Turner spent much of his spare time on the moors, hunting with his horses and dogs. He built this cave for use as a retreat and quarters for his gamekeeper greenhouse, known locally as Longstockings. Opposite the cave entrance is a coal seam. This must have been very convenient for them in the cold weather. A prolific builder, he also built the Images, a temple-like folly at his home, Nab's House, in Greenmount. Near the source of Redbrook are the peat beds of wet moss, which cover several acres of this wild moorland. Bull Hill, at 1,371 feet above sea level, is the highest point on Holcombe Moor. From here, given the right conditions, it is possible to see the Isle of Man, the Lake District, West Yorkshire, Peak District, the Wrekin and Snowdonia. Around this location, various flint flakes, tools and other interesting objects dating back to the Bronze Age were discovered in 1886. Even now, relics are still to be found by those observant enough. Could this be an old boundary stone or waymark? Two huge blocks of sandstone weighing over 5 tons mark the location of Pilgrim's Cross. A resting place for pilgrims making their way from Manchester to Whalley Abbey, this isolated spot is now a refuge for skylarks, swifts and curlews. The foundation stone of the original cross, dating back to 1176, was destroyed in 1901, whereafter the current memorial was erected. Across the moor, down Harkle's Hill towards Peel Tower, we come to Moorbottom Road. This ancient packhorse route is dotted with small farmsteads such as Clark's Tenement, Taylor's, Westmont, Hamlets and Nook. Most of these small farms were abandoned during the first half of the 20th century. Just off the main track are the ruins of Holcombe Head, one of the major early farmsteads. Continuing towards Edgeworth, we eventually come to the farms of Stanley Rake and Lark Hill. Many of the old field boundaries are still evident, such as earthen bank, ditches and dry stone walls. The large stone slabs placed on their edges, forming a monolithic wall, are perhaps the most interesting. So ancient are some of these stones that trees have grown into them. From the moorland, we descend the slopes covered by windberry, heather, gorse and bracken. And so, back into the woodlands, greeted by an abundance of wildflowers and birdsong. How lucky are we to have all this on our doorstep? We conclude our journey with the words of Henry Dowsett, one-time rector of Holcombe, taken from one of his many poems about these much-loved moors he wrote in 1901. The sun has set in golden light. A soft gale blows from out the west. I linger on this moorland height, and all around is rest. Gone is the burden of the day, with summer sun's departed ray.